Around the world, as deepening crises in food, water, energy, and climate change converge, two basic responses are emerging. One is the transnational corporate response, globalization, controlling the food, water, and energy systems with unjust so-called free trade rules, maximizing use of genetically modified seeds, toxic fossil fuel-based fertilizers, chemicals, and biopesticides, privatizing profits and socializing risks, competing with nature and each other. Another is the planetarian response. Go organic, regulate corporations with deep democracy and fair trade rules, govern through cooperation with nature and each other. Recent events in California, one of the world's largest economies, a center of organic farming, and a bellwether of emerging trends, is a microcosm of this planet-wide survival drama. This is a report from California's front line of deep democracy. In 2007, without public consent, state officials aerial sprayed Santa Cruz and Monterey neighborhoods with pesticides known to cause asthma and cancer. The stated aim? To eradicate a tiny insect called the light brown apple moth, LBAM for short, which has never been shown to cause crop damage anywhere, which is easily controlled by natural predators, and which scientists say has been in California at least 30 to 50 years and can never be eradicated anyway.
Eradication is simply not an option. You can't eradicate this. Second, stop considering exotic pest situations as dichotomous, that is, either eradicate or manage. In fact, there are a number of intermediate concepts, including containment. Thus, we should be considering creating a first-rate program of containment of the LBAM rather than launching an eradication program that really has no chance of success.
Techniques proposed by CDFA have not been tested, so constitutes a grand experiment involving 17 million people and 7,000 square miles.
I appreciate the chance that I've had to be able to sit with you in your offices and talk to you about why this pest is a threat to California's environment and its food supply.
Draconian quarantines were placed on small growers and nursery owners found with any apple moth life stage, threatening them with financial ruin. By declaring a false emergency, political appointees have sidestepped legal requirements for human health and environmental impact studies. After the Monterey and Santa Cruz sprayings, over 600 children and adults got sick.
It was basically like crop dusting. There were these two low-flying airplanes going at fairly high speeds at about 500 feet above the ground. And they would begin at 8 at night and stop at 5 in the morning. And we found out that while not everybody was having adverse reactions, many were, and there was no system in place for compiling these. So that's when I said somebody's got to do something, and I really didn't want to take time away from work to do it, but I felt, we're Christians and I felt like it was the right thing to do. So I set up an email address and a P.O. box, got very little publicity, a lot of word of mouth, and hundreds of these complaints started coming in. This represents, there are hundreds of them.
Within a few weeks, we've gathered more than 450 human adverse events, mostly respiratory in nature, which would be predictable from aerial spraying. And we reported at least 650 dead seabirds. That was actually the official state tally, 650. And when you look at the scientific literature, when you find 650, that's usually representing only 10% of what actually occurred.
In response, up and down the state, citizens organized. Websites were posted. Public education meetings were held. Petitions and lawsuits were filed. Rallies and concerts were staged. Videos were produced. Citizens and scientists testified in hearings.
No spray, period!
There were marches and demonstrations.
We don't want it. They can never prove it safe. Flat out, no, no, never.
To see you all here, and it's so awesome that everybody woke up, showed up. safest community that we could ever live in. I'm Judy Shells with StopTheSpray.org, and somebody told us not too long ago that they were making a decision for us. And who gets to decide who sprays and who toxifies a community, and who gets to decide that they're going to poison our children?
Over 30 cities with a total population of more than 800,000 passed resolutions against the CDFA spray plans.
This is the 10 o'clock news.
Opponents of the state's aerial moss spraying program are celebrating a victory tonight. Officials today abandoned their plans to spray pheromones in urban areas. Instead, they plan to use another method to kill off the light brown apple moth.
This is a pretty dramatic about-face for state officials. After telling the public for months that this spraying program was absolutely necessary, suddenly it seems it's not so urgent after all.
It's the news that countless Bay Area residents wanted to hear, and it came in a conference call this afternoon.
At this point, I can say that we are not, and I'll repeat that we are not planning to be up with an aerial application of pheromones.
After thousands of complaints, state and federal agriculture officials decided not to spray the controversial chemical over urban areas to battle the light brown apple moth.
What does this change actually mean? What is it that's happened? Well, really all that's happened is that the CDFA has decided for now not to spray chemicals from airplanes over urban areas. That's not in writing yet. I believe they're not going to for now, but this is no legal agreement yet. And so first of all, I just want to emphasize that I think this is huge. And I think the biggest thing about it, besides the fact that we're not going to be sprayed from airplanes with these toxic chemicals, is that we did this. In the period of 6 or 7 months, we went from nothing to people running around trying to figure out what we could do, to organizing ourselves, to self-created organizations, and really doing the research in the environment, in the medical, in the legal, in the economic, in every area, and figuring out what it took for us to get along well enough and organize ourselves and not be too redundant and find out what was really going on and then publicize that as broadly as we could. And if you stop to look at that, with essentially no money, citizens stopped Bush, Homeland Security, the USDA, the CDFA, and Schwarzenegger. That's pretty good.
It's not okay to spray synthetic pheromones. I mean, it's not okay to spray PM10, particulate matter of a certain minimum size on people. It's and if you're going to, the people who are going to be, again, paying the cost have the right to a voice in whether that policy is going to happen or not. The central coast of California and the Bay Area is the only place that I have seen that an aerial pesticide spray has ever been stopped. That's just, it was an astonishing achievement. I thought the battle that was going on here was going to be epic and heroic, and surely enough it has been. I mean, the way that citizens on the Central Coast and the Bay Area fought this has been a model that other communities can now look to learn about how to effectively fight.
The CDFA's rush to spray had been slowed, but not stopped. California LBAM plan funding under the Department of Homeland Security came directly from the Bush White House. The pesticide supplier, Suterra, is owned by Stuart Resnick, a large California fruit and nut grower and a major contributor to Schwarzenegger's campaign. Top staff at Suterra previously were employed by Monsanto. Food and Agriculture Secretary A.G. Kawamura was also a generous campaign contributor to Schwarzenegger before his appointment. The project would bring millions of federal dollars into the California Department of Food and Agriculture's budget.
Contrary to popular opinion, according to this EIR, the aerial spraying is not off the table. They've said they've limited aerial spraying to rural areas, but most of us live in rural areas. My niece and nephew and their new baby live in rural areas. This is not acceptable to us. Farm workers live and work in rural areas. This is still not acceptable to us.
Our petition to reclassify the light brown apple moth provides the comprehensive review of the literature and modern consideration of its effective management. CDFA relies on their own scientists and publications, many by CDFA personnel, to justify the policy for eradication, while science and the experience in California and worldwide continues to verify that L-band remains a minor pest and is easy to control.
So let me set the stage by briefly reviewing the status of L-band. As my colleagues here in the panel have noted, the known distribution in California is 15 counties and 23,000 square miles. There's every reason to believe, indeed I believe certainty, that the distribution of L-band really is in every county in the state. And in light of this biological reality, L-band should be viewed less as an invasion in progress and more as an invasion that is completed. It's difficult for me to overstate the difficulty of eradicating a pest that is as widespread and as entrenched as L-band.
This is an issue about trade. It's not an issue about eradication. This is an insect that is miscategorized as a red label bug, and in that sense, it triggers quarantine activity. So this is a quarantine issue that is being passed from the grower's responsibility to the public sector. As you've heard, in New Zealand, they're totally capable of applying these same technologies at the grower level to allow them to export their products. And that is where it ought to be applied.
We beat those buggers. They're back. And they're back in full force. And they're spending money. And their goal is to eradicate this moth that's done no damage in California whatsoever. None. And they're going to spend whatever it takes to do that. They've started a $3 million scare public relations campaign that they're running on television and radio.
Thanks very much, Frank, and thanks to all of you for coming today. Our cause could not be more just, and the gravity of our plight more severe. This planet is losing one species every 20 minutes. Much of that is due to deforestation, global warming, but also the indiscriminate and systemic use of pesticides worldwide. Many of you are probably aware that in the last decade, for the first time in North America, we have encountered something called colony collapse disorder. This is nothing less than the canary in the mine shaft, signaling the unraveling of our ecological system. I trust we will prevail in the long run, because it's individuals like you and your belief that there can be a better way, a system of governance rooted in truth and justice, honesty, science. If you believe in that, it will be done. So thank you very much for your support, and we'll continue to go after